All right, today what I want to do is I want to help those of you that have decided not to read Mississippi Trial 1955 for your historical fiction book. So the way this is going to work is it's kind of like we're doing like a lit circle, but we're going to do it digital, right? We're not going to have those face-to-face meetings. And so if we were in class, what I would ask you to do is to take your book and to divide it into chunks, right? To figure out how many pages you needed to read by the deadline. And so I'm just going to walk you through how you could do that with any book that you have, with whatever book you're choosing to do. So basically, here you can see what you're going to do is you're going to divide the book into 3 chunks. There are 3 different time periods where I'm going to ask you to stop and reflect and do some activities with what you've read. And so on those days, you want to make sure that you're keeping up and you have 1/3 of your book done. So what I would do is you can, and again, I'm going to show you how to do this 2 different ways. You can do it by chapter, or you can do it by pages. And so the 3 dates that you need to be ready by and reflect are April 21st, April 29th, and May 7th. And when I say be ready, that means when you wake up on the morning of the 21st, you should be done with your reading and ready to go. So first book I have is One Crazy Summer. And when I looked at this book and opened it up to divide it, the chapters all have titles and they don't have numbers. And so dividing this one is going to be much easier for me by pages instead of just straight up chapters. So this book has 215 pages. So I'm going to go over here and I'm going to write 215. I'm going to divide that by 3. That means I need to read about 72 pages for each time period. So then I'm going to go over here, and you can just write this on a piece of paper. I'm not going to give you this document, but if you want to, I certainly can. So that means by April 21st, I'm going to be on page 72. All right, and then for April 29th, I'm going to go back to my calculator, and I'm going to put 72 plus 72. And then I should be on page 144. And then by this date, I should be to the end of the book. And when I go and look, the end of that book was page 215. Okay, so that would be where I need to be at each of those dates. Now you could easily divide it even further to go by day. If that helps you to know exactly how many pages a day you need to read, you can do that too. As we're working through this distance learning, just know that some days your only task is going to be to read. And so I'm not going to have a lot of other things to do on top of that. All right. So those are some things to think about, but this is how I would divide it if there were no chapters. Okay. Another book I really quickly want to show you how I would do it. If your book has chapters, that makes it a little bit easier, I think. Another book I found that I have sitting at home is this book that's called The Rock and the River. It happens to be another historical fiction book, but this one is divided into chapters. And you can see that the last chapter here, is chapter 21. Okay, so really easily 21 divided by 3 is 7. So that means I need to read 7 chapters. So I would put read through, or actually, you know what? I'm going to do this. I'm going to put chapters 1 through 7. Because to me, that implies that I need to be through chapter 7. And then for the next one, I would add 7 more. So I would put 8 through 14. And then for that last meeting day, I will put 9 through 21. Oh, I can do that. 15 through 21. That makes more sense, doesn't it? So, and this is how I would divide up my book. So again, if you're not reading Mississippi Trial, this is what I would go through to figure out, to make sure that you're on track with the reading and what you're supposed to do. So if you have any questions about how to do this, please just let me know. If you are reading a different book, if you're not reading Mississippi Trial, please do this. Write this down somewhere, make it in a Google Doc so you know where you're supposed to be. And then as we move forward, everything else will make sense. If you know where you're supposed to be by these specific dates in your book, I will give you the rest of the information that you're going to need to make sure that you are doing what you're supposed to do. So hope that makes sense. Thanks.